Hello, my name is José Vilson, and I really want to think about today how we can all get better at our math education, specifically how we can make it so everyone can learn math in a really profound way. And so when I think about my own education, I do remember how I used to get A's in pretty much everything I did when it came to mathematics. I used to get A's from pre-K all the way to third grade. And in fact, it was so wild that they often tried to skip me grades. So I was getting A's all throughout third grade, all throughout fourth grade. Even when I wasn't doing homework, I just kept getting A's and A's and A's. And it was such a wonderful experience when I was in the math classroom because it was just so easy for me. It came naturally. And it was so wild when I was going through seventh and eighth grade. In fact, I was throwing up A's. I was literally like just wow. I could just get A's anytime I wanted, whenever I wanted, however I wanted, and that felt really good for me as a math student. But then somewhere down the line, I really started to see that I wasn't as competent in math as I thought. And one of the ways that that came up was in ninth grade when I tried to get into a regions-based class and they told me that I couldn't. So I was already nervous by then. And then by the time I got to 11th grade, I was really just sad. I didn't know what to do with myself. And oftentimes I felt like, why am I here? Why am I actually in class doing math? So by the time that I got even into senior year of high school, I was trying to do calculus and I was in honors classes trying to do my best. I was like, no, please, I can't do this anymore. I was just so nervous about being a math student. And so I wonder how that translates for kids who, I guess, consider themselves gifted. I mean, we are just so stressed out every so often because we feel like, wow, this math may not be for me. And that's really where the nervousness comes from. And lo and behold, I became a teacher of mathematics. It was kind of a weird thing for me to fess up to because I kind of felt nervous at the end there, but one of the few things I do know about is how to teach math better and how specifically to make myself a better teacher for all students. So when I think about myself in the math classroom, I'm always trying to give them the best because you really don't know the gifts that they possess. As a matter of fact, most of us really don't consider the gifts that they have currently. And in case you haven't heard, there's a few things that we do know about math teachers. One is that teachers of color are more likely to think their students are gifted. They're more likely to look at their students as very, real smart, but also that too often we center ourselves in the mathematics and not our students. So a solution I can think about is the words of Bob Moses, where he says illiteracy in math is acceptable in the way that illiteracy in reading and writing is unacceptable. So we have to democratize algebra in a really concrete way. One of the things that I think about when I do teach is I try to open as many doors as possible for my students, and those keys are so critical for my students anytime, at all times. They need to be able to get into these doors that are often closed to them. And so when I think about people who want to pontificate on whether we should be teaching kids higher level math, I often laugh because they would never accept that for their own children, and yet they accept it for our children. I don't know how I feel about any of that. Something that I want to consider is how do we treat math like literacy? Do we treat it as something that is just about jobs, or is it about the enjoyment of actually doing the math itself? I also want to throw on your laps how we often look at students as needing to own their math, and we don't often get to do that. They need to own their math in a really profound way. And also, we have to worry about this issue of relevance and if whether or not it's real world. When the math is actually interesting, it doesn't actually have to apply to the real world. That's what I found with a lot of my students. They'll just say, hey, this is really interesting math, and that's perfectly okay. It doesn't need to be real world or whatever have you. Because really, when I look at my students, I say, do they have the fullest potential possible? Are they demonstrating that they know the math? And if they do, then good for them, because all of them deserve the best math possible. And if you don't believe that, then anyway, thank you.